So I'm midway through doing the shielding, the copper, grounded copper shielding. So there's lots of wires, and unfortunately the ignition coils are super close and the high tension leads are super close to all the sensitive CPU stuff. So I'm going to actually put a little, and by the way, there, you know, the fan controller, I'm going to double-sided tape, that 3M tape, which is brutally strong, I'm going to use to hold that in place. But I'm going to put a cover, a metal shielding cover over all the wires once the wiring to the CPU is, the ECU is completed. Then I'll have a grounded shield so that basically none of the wires will be exposed to the high voltage. And here I'll cover everything up with the same braided material here, but I wanted to make sure I had it shielded all the way along, and then I think we're safe and sound on this front. Well, it took a long time to get here, but I have my computer fully wired up to the engine. This is the digital dash that's kind of doing nothing right now, but my sensors are functioning. You can't see the computer monitor, but if I go over and look, I've got, I'm not running the engine yet, so I've got a 35:1 air-fuel ratio. I'm at 0% throttle position sensor and manifold pressure, manifold air temperature, coolant temperature, oil pressure, this kind of stuff, fuel pressure, it's all there. If I push on the pedal, CPS goes up and down, which is the way it should. So far so good. I was having some issues with the oxygen sensor. Just see, now it says initializing. I don't know what's going on, but the oxygen sensor seems to be disappearing after a while. Don't know what that's all about. It's driving me crazy. Anyway, so this panel in here is hard to see in the dark, but I haven't cleaned it up too much. But the yellow wires at the bottom, that's for my temporary starter, momentary push button. But all the relays and stuff are in, and it's all the cabling's done. And here, you know, I'll clean all this up, but you can see that I'm basically ready to go. I'm gonna see, that's Friday night. I'm gonna see if I can fire it up Sunday. So there's more wiring madness there, and I got the controller for the water pump sitting on top. So hopefully I don't have problems. I'm gonna have to spin the thing over without the fuel injectors attached to check the timing and make sure that the crank and the cam sensors are working. Once I verify timing, then I'll heat up the oil with a heater, just an air heater, just heat up the engine as much as I can before I turn it over a few times with the drill and get the oil pump spinning with the drill, and then I'll be able to fire it up. So let's hope that oxygen sensor is not a problem, since it seems to be crapping out occasionally. So this is the definition of pain. If anybody ever wanted to know what the definition of pain is, I got everything finished, got down to doing the final test of the crank sensor and the cam sensor before firing it, primed it, everything, and the computer is telling me it does not like the signal from the crank sensor. So there is a square wave going from the Hall effect sensor. It was a Mercedes sensor I managed to fit into the Mark III ABA block, but I don't know whether it's an erratic signal. Probably is an erratic signal. I may have to go back to the old school inductive sensor. So anyway, there's a battery, temporary battery there with a power supply keeping it fresh. There's a little battery monitor showing current and stuff. Anyway, I'll just show you what I got going here. So I'll flick the ignition on. That's the fuel pump that fires up. By the way, there's an extra line running to the back because I got skunked when you hit the starter motor. This is an older battery, it's a weak battery, so it turns over the engine fine, but with the spark plugs removed, without compression, it turns it over just fine, but it was pulling the battery voltage down enough to cause the computer to crap out. So here's the digital dash. Here's my temporary starter motor button here. So you can't really read it, but it says stall there. I'm going to hit the button. see there's my oil pressure coming up. It eventually gets up to 40 pounds, 42 pounds. So all my signals are working fine. Engine turns on and all that stuff, but I'm just sucking hugely when it comes to having a bad crank signal. So what I'm doing, that signal that says engine RPM stall, it'll say sinking when I key it in. I've taken the sensor out and I'm starting to diagnose it. But the nasty thing is the sensor's buried in behind the oil filter, and it's in an impossible place to reach given my intake system. So I'm gonna have to start tearing this apart if I can't. I'm almost certain I'm gonna have to either go back to the inductive pickup that worked on the Mark III block, or start over with a new design on the Hull effect. And I don't like inductive pickups, but if I can get it to work and shield the cable against noise, then I guess I can go back to the stock VW inductive pickup. So just too fucking smart for my own good here, and I got nailed. So anyway, I wanted to finish. I was all ready to go. I even have a big blower motor in the backyard. That big green or blue motor there is there to blow cold air, and I was even going to use these fans to keep the brakes cool as I use the braking system to help do some compression loading on the engine and do some sort of poor man's dyno testing. Not dyno testing, but just dyno loading. Anyway, so there we are. Fucking frustrated. I got it. I put the inductive sensor in, changed the programming, and here up in the right hand corner, ready, set, go. 200 RPM. Timing 14 degrees. I haven't checked the timing yet with the timing gun, but we're in the game now, I think. So huge progress. I've reprogrammed a lot of things, and we'll see if this engine starts now. So we have the solution to the inductive crank sensor. I'm just updating the software here. We'll see if this thing will start now. So what have I got here? I'm going to, so I've updated it. We'll go online, and we'll try to get it, we'll fire it up, and we'll see what's happening here. So base fuel, here we go, give it a whirl. Not quite yet. It's firing, but then it's the injectors are dropping to 0. Weird, eh? I wonder why it's dropping to 0. Anyway, that's my current problem. Once it starts, it fires up. It sounds really sweet, but the injectors turn off. I have to find out why that's happening. Okay, we'll give it a whirl again. Updated the parameters a bit more, and we are online. Here we go. It says 0 as soon as this thing starts. It immediately cuts to 0. So I'm ready to go here. I've got some test firing done. Had a lot of programming of the tables to do. I left a bunch of them blank, and it turns out not a good idea. Got to go and do all the acceleration enrichment and fuel modifiers and startup enrichment. There's just tons of different tables, so lots of fiddling around until I got to where it wants to be. It likes to idle at around 4 pounds per hour of fuel, and I had it too rich, too lean, whatever. So anyway, right now, what do the gauges say? Gauges are telling me that the engine's basically up to operating temperature, 172 Fahrenheit, 15 degrees of advance, 4.1 pounds of fuel. I'll hit the start button and it'll fire. Yahoo! So there it is. And there's the fuel air to fuel ratio from the wideband sensor, so it's dialed in. That's CL comp is the amount that the computer needs to adjust. So it's learned it's happy, right? So I can go over here, let me just pull up my chair. So I'm just changing the idle speed with this thing, so I'll go say 1500 RPM. And there's the engine at 1500. And again, you look, it's only taking 3.5 pounds of fuel. You know, it's because of the race cam. You know, everything's a bit backwards. It doesn't like to idle really below this number. Go to 2000. What I'm doing, by the way, is I'm programming in the idle air position sensor. Right, so there's the idle position sensor. It's at 50% open now, or 47. And then 2,000 RPM, it's only taking 4.5 pounds of fuel. And I got a target 3.8 to 13.8 fuel to air ratio. Lots of oil pressure, battery. So I'm going to go down to 1100 now. And oh no, there we go. So we're dropping to 2.8 pounds. So it was just warming up. That's what it was. It was just a little bit on the warm-up cycle. So we're good. I mean, I'm super happy, obviously. Engine is, you know, you're getting a little bit of that throatiness. I'm not going to flip the throttle because I don't have the open throttle settings done yet. I've only got idle settings done. So I can't complain. And then in terms of the exhaust note, it's kind of what I expected. It's a deep throaty sound. You know, it's the triple resonator. So it's a nice deep sound, but it's not doesn't have a shrillness. But when you touch the throttle, and I've done it a few times, it leans out right now. I have to program it better. When you touch the throttle, boy, this thing sounds nasty. It opens right up. It just starts barking. So it's going to be a really cool engine once I get this thing all tuned up. Okay, so what I'm starting to do now is trying to program part throttle, and I'm putting the car in drive, and I'm using the brakes as a sort of a dyno to load the engine, start bringing it off of closed throttle, allowing the engine to build some cylinder pressure to push the piston rings against the walls and help them seat a little bit better. And at the same time, I'm starting to program part throttle operation. Remember, it's the early days, so it's not going to be, you know, running entirely smoothly as I do this. It's going to fight me, and hopefully it's going to learn, and I am going to learn too. So we're going to fire it up and get going on our drive here in the garage. So I got my clutch pedal, which feels remarkably good for a racing clutch. And thank you, Josh, for telling me that it was possible. So I'm going to do it in second gear. So we're in neutral right now. I'm going to start it up. Rattling in the back because I've got an aluminum pipe on the exhaust, so I don't have to breathe that shit in. Just ignore that crackling sound. Okay, putting it in drive. Proceed. Start spinning. fans turn on and they speed up and they slow down. The rad temperature is 180, the engine temperature is 191, the oil temperature is 192. So I'm getting some cylinder pressure in there, and no complaints. Engine's not blowing a lot of smoke. So you can hear the fan slowing down as the temperature drops. It's getting nice. So I'm super happy. Got a bunch of tuning to do here, but the key thing is to be able to load it down enough that I can get those the cylinders to break in a little bit. You know, you want to do that pretty quickly after the engine first fires. I was worried that I was going to spend hours and hours idling this thing. Not really healthy for the motor. You want to get those rings to seat. As Josh said, I want to do a couple temperature cycles, so I'll let it cool down a little bit. I'll do a little bit more loading. It's hard to sort of get just the right amount of pressure on the brake pedal and just the right amount of throttle to stay in a particular area to learn. I mean, with the dyno, it would be a lot easier. I guess you could probably set a particular pressure. So anyway, there we go. I'm happy. So this is my neighbor Bruce. He's going to help me do a couple of load tests here. Alright, it's idling at 1050. It likes it. Below that it gets a little rough. I'm using my hands on the brake. I'm using my hands on the gas because I have better control than with my feet in terms of trying to hold and give it load. Okay, first things first, in the gear. And we are spinning. Give it some throttle.
You almost hit 4,000. You're in gear.
What kind of RPM did I see?
Barely 4. You didn't go above.
That's okay.
Yep.
The oil temperature is sort of hanging there at 200 degrees. It opens and turns that up and circulates and turns the fluid oil.
And that's the level you set it at? Yeah. 200.
It's a mechanical spring. I can't change that one actually.
And engine is 190. Fuel temps 180.
Yep.
Yep. Nice.
It's holding.
Yeah, it is.
Right, and we're not getting a lot of air. Right, if you're driving on the street, you get the air going in, right? So it's holding its temperature. We did a load test, right? So you've got some blue smoke, you know, and the reason why is you're getting some blow by in the rings under pressure. Yeah, and then as soon as you back up the throttle, it'll suck that oil out and boom. So eventually you'll, maybe we can do one more, I'm sitting
Probably clean your valve up
yeah.
than it did initially.
It should have, you can do those passes supposedly, that bluing and that smell will go away. So I'm waiting for the brakes to cool enough, and then we'll do one, I might do one last pass and then
One last. So it's on you to read the temperature on the rotor.
And they're not that hot. And I can test it. I don't want to test the rotor. But
Yeah, no
it's not that hot.
temperature.
So this is right as well.
It's like a beauty.
It is. All right. Well, I'm gonna shut the camera off. Bye, guys.